Hello, and welcome back to the Fireside Lit Book Club, a quiet, candlelit corner of the internet where we read slowly, think deeply, and speak authentically about our experiences. I'm Lindsay, and I invite you to join me by the fire as we explore the soul of a book, the beauty it reveals, the questions it asks, and the ways it helps us understand life, identity, and meaning just a little more clearly. This will be my final episode of the year and my final episode of the first season of Fireside Lit. And I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to anyone who has taken the time to listen to my thoughts and reflections about one of the great loves of my life, books, this year. I keep recording first and foremost because I genuinely love it. I love creating content for this little project of mine, but also because I like to think it's a genuine source of enjoyment and entertainment for listeners. You've engaged in a dialogue with me simply by listening and tuning in, hopefully in a way that has inspired you to explore new genres or pick up more challenging works than what you may be used to. And I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for every listen, every rating, and every time you've taken the opportunity to consider what I have to say about literature. It truly means the world. I decided that there would be no more fitting of an episode to end 2025 with than a little sneak peek of what's to come in 2026, both for my reading list and for the podcast. As I mentioned in an earlier episode, I like to curate my annual reading lists by thinking about what I want to accomplish in that particular year's worth of reading. Sometimes that's delving into a specific theme or genre, or even a specific author with several of their works. Other times, it's more of an educational year for me. I decided that 2026 would be such a year for me and committed several months ago to the idea of including some of the earliest classical Greek works on my reading list. Up to this point, I've sort of picked and chosen my classics at random based on personal interest and what has appealed to me at that particular time, but I decided I would really like to take 2026 to immerse myself in some of the earliest classics that shaped Western civilization as we know it. So the works of Aeschylus, Euripides, and Sophocles, for instance, with each one building on the other rather than just continuing to select more classics at random. This year will be my attempt at moving through some of the most prominent and important works that informed literature over the course of thousands of years in chronological order. And though I definitely don't have the stamina to devote an entire year to those works alone, I do feel that they are a good place to begin. With that said, let's dive into what's on my agenda and bookshelves for 2026, starting with the winter season. So I'm going to kick the year off with Prometheus Bound by Aeschylus, which appears to be a pretty slim volume, but will probably require a lot of dedication and time to work my way through in a way that really enables me to grasp and appreciate what's being presented. My only other experience to date with ancient Greek writing has been the canonical Iliad and the Odyssey, which I enjoyed well enough, along with a brief encounter with Plato's Republic, which I admittedly retired after trudging through the first part of the book after finding that it reads like a frustratingly circuitous dialogue. So I'm interested to see what my experience with Aeschylus will be. From here, I will move on to the Oresteia, which is composed of a trilogy of ancient Greek tragedies, also written by Aeschylus, that tells the story of the curse on the house of Atreus. This trilogy contains Agamemnon, the libation bearers, and the Eumenides, which center around themes of revenge and provide an introduction to the evolution of institutional justice. I honestly have no idea what to expect with these, but, why not go all in at the beginning of the year and see how it goes? I decided I would move from these first few reads to a book called Lost in Thought, The Hidden Pleasures of an Intellectual Life by Zena Hitz, as a bit of a breather and a grounding reflection before diving into more tragedy. I will then move to Euripides with both Hippolytus and the Bacchae. Finally, I will close out the winter months with The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis, which seems like it'll fit really well with the Bacchae due to its themes of temptation, inversion, and destruction. I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan, and I've already read quite a lot by him. A few of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia, as well as The Weight of Glory, The Four Loves, The Great Divorce, and Surprised by Joy. My understanding is that Screwtape Letters is one of his more renowned works, so I'm really excited to finally get around to reading it. I'll be keeping things a bit lighter as we move into the spring months, though my first few reads will also be Greek tragedies. So I'll be diving into Oedipus Rex, the Theban plays, and Antigone, all by Sophocles. And after this, I'll be taking a breather from more complex works, as I've said, with some critical theory by Harold Bloom with his book entitled How to Read and Why, before moving to When All Is Said by Anne Griffin for my first contemporary fiction read of the year. This novel seems to have a really promising premise, exploring a question I've always kind of wondered about personally. If you had to pick 5 people to sum up your life, who would they be? If you were to raise a glass to each of them, what would you say? And what would you learn about yourself when all is said? Really eager to finally pick up this book, as it's been on my TBR for a long time. And afterward, I'll be moving to another contemporary work, A Sister to Honor by Lucy Ferris, which seems to have a really riveting plot centering around a devout Muslim family's response to their daughter becoming more westernized and dating an American. I find myself really drawn to narratives like this. I loved the Netflix series Caliphate and the 1991 film Not Without My Daughter, mostly because I'm utterly fascinated by the fact that such extreme radical ideologies persist in this day and age. So I will really be looking forward to picking up this book by Lucy Ferris to end my spring season of reading. Next, moving into summer, I will be immersing myself in The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I've always heard really good things about this book. It's definitely one of those that you see in every bookstore, so I've definitely had this one on my list for quite a while. I thoroughly enjoyed The Secret History, which was Tartt's debut novel, published in 1992, so I expect great things from this one as well. I will then turn to The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henri Nouwen, sort of as a short contemplative read after Tartt's Intensity, which will serve as a springboard into Eschatology, Death and Eternal Life by Pope Benedict XVI. I believe these two will pair quite nicely together, and I'm a big fan of philosophical and theological works. Plus, Benedict XVI was brilliant. I have read one other of his works, the encyclical Deus Caritas Es, and really enjoyed it, though I will say that he was so intellectual that his writing requires an extra intense focus, so hopefully I'll be in the right mindset as I pick up Eschatology. I'll be ending my summer with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, whom I think is an absolutely brilliant contemporary novelist. I have yet to read a book of hers that is lackluster or underwhelming. Her novels are definitely guilty pleasure reads, but they're also exceedingly well written, and definitely not anything I would classify as fluff. This is one of her more popular books to date, and I simply have not gotten around to reading it yet, so I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. As autumn rolls around once more, I'll be pursuing depth and atmosphere in my books, as I usually do during this time of year. So I'll be turning to 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which I've heard is dense but rich and is often included on lists of the greatest books ever written. I've had my eye on this one for a while, so I'm curious to see how my reading experience with it will go. Afterward, I'll be reading The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and this is another one that should pretty well reflect that gothic, book-haunted, autumnal mood I'm hoping to capture. This is yet another book I've only ever heard terrific things about. I actually saw that it was someone's answer on Goodreads to the question, which book do you wish you could read again for the very first time? So at the risk of sounding repetitive, I really am very excited to pick this one up. And finally, as I often do during the fall season, I'll be exploring some more ghostly literature with Collected Ghost Stories by M.R. James. I imagine this could maybe look or feel a bit similar to previous autumnal reads of mine, such as Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. If you need more autumnal reading inspiration, definitely check out my episode, 10 Cozy Fall Reads, Books to Curl Up With this season. To close out 2026, I'll be turning to 3 books. Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle, as a lighter contemporary fiction to contrast with Marquez and Zafón. Virgil Wander by Leif Enger, which should pair well as a reflective Near Year's End read, and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which I've heard is short but absolutely life-altering. So I really wanted to finish this year on an introspective note, and it seems as though I'll accomplish that with this book. So in total, I will hope and plan to read these 22 books next year, which is a bit on the lighter side for me in terms of load, but may end up being the perfect number to really take my time and feel unrushed with each book, many of which will require a lot of dedication and focus. I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you about them in the months to come, and I'm curious to know if any of you have already read any of the books on my 2026 TBR. If so, please let me know in the comment section which ones you enjoyed or which ones you would recommend not reading, because that's real too. And now, a little announcement for you all. I will be back in February with season 2 of Fireside Lit, featuring new commentaries on some of the books in today's episode, of course, as well as love and romance and literature through the ages, my favorite coming-of-age novels, an exploration of the craft of writing today versus the craft of writing hundreds of years ago, and much, much more. I look forward to gathering with you all around the hearth again after the new year, and I hope your holidays are cozy, joyful, and peaceful. Enjoy many long winter nights of hot tea and amazing books, and until next time, be well and happy reading.